Hello, everybody. Welcome to the great eclipse, the great Leo eclipse of 2017, a Dream Team New Paradigm Astrology webinar, where we're going to make sense out of the chaos, bring order to the madness. Maybe, maybe not, but at least give you a few ingredients to stir into your consciousness pot. Yeah, to work at this thing. So the structure of today is basically that we're just going to have each one of the dream team talk about a little something different for a few minutes apiece, and then we're going to just open it up to questions and kind of make it a chat room where we're all casually just interacting together and spontaneously, and we'll see how that works. We'll be as Leo, fun, playful, and spontaneous as we possibly can, even though this is like really serious shit. Okay, so speaking of, big, strong, serious shit, we're going to have Christina go first. Christina, you want to jump in there and just, give us your take on, what you are seeing that this eclipse is all about, eh? Go for it.
Great. Awesome. Oh, can you hear me okay? That sounds crazy. Hi, everyone. Hi, Kaypacha. Thank you so much for joining us today. Because I'm super Capricorn, I'm going to just kind of welcome everybody. And also, I wanted to give everyone sort of like this visual framework of what we're working with here with this eclipse. Because it's not just about this one big event, right? Which is the August 21st Leo solar eclipse. That's the big one. But we are actually in the portal of this liminal space, right? Where things get a little disorienting, a little weird, and then like they really sort of ramp up for that, the big eclipses. And as we know, eclipses come in pairs. So we've got two eclipses. We've got a lunar eclipse and then the solar eclipse. And so just to kind of give everybody a framework, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully it's not going to, hopefully you can see it okay. Let's see. And just to, some of you that probably already know about eclipses, that's great. You can just sort of follow along. But I really wanted to just make sure that we understand kind of what an eclipse is. So eclipses occur when either a new moon or a full moon is conjunct the lunar nodes. And so now you hear Kaypacha talking about the lunar nodes all the time, right? Because they are points of evolution. And so as we know, we have a new moon and a full moon every month. But what makes them eclipses is when they are conjunct the nodes. The nodes of destiny or the nodes of fate is what we usually call them. So they are just super powered new moons and full moons. So when we know what the significance of a new moon and a full moon lunation is, just think we're just amping that up even more. It's even bigger, even more magic, even more synchronicity. And the fact that this August 21st one is coming over America, those of us in America will especially be affected. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But just to sort of give us, again, this sort of framework, we are coming up on this portal opening, which is tomorrow for the Leo new moon, July 23rd, right? And so that's when a lot of astrologers consider this sort of 6-week period as, again, this liminal time period where we're starting to feel the change coming. We're starting to sort of feel like the ground shifting beneath our feet for the eclipse. So we have the new moon, July 21st, sort of opening the pathway toward the first eclipse, which is the lunar eclipse on August 7th. And that's the Aquarius full moon, right? And so when we have the lunar eclipse, that's usually when the moon, lunar, right, the moon is eclipsed. So our needs suddenly may be changing. We may find that we need to meet our needs in a different way. Everything that the moon represents is changing and is in darkness. And so it might bring out more in us. It's calling for different spaces in our consciousness to open up with regard to the moon. And then we have the solar eclipse, August 21st, which is the Leo new moon. Again, these two eclipses are big because of the nodes, the lunar nodes. And then 2 weeks after that Leo new moon is when we consider the eclipse portal closing, which is the September 6th Pisces full moon. And so, you know, some of the best advice around eclipses is wait and see. And the reason being is because we can't see clearly during the eclipse periods, right? They can really be times of disorientation. They can be times of seeing the future or of having openings from the past that we hadn't seen before. And it's often a time where we need to wait until this eclipse portal closes, which is around the September 6th full moon, for things to settle down and for us to really gain the lessons of this eclipse period. But this is a time to experiment. It's a time to open, again, new pathways in our consciousness and to really just open to the experience of transformation ultimately, which is what the eclipse wants us to do. So for this lunar eclipse, August 7th, the Aquarius full moon, that's when the moon's light is obscured by the Earth's shadow. So the moon is in shadow. And as we know, the moon represents our past conditioning, how we've conditioned ourselves to respond to life. And so because the moon's light is obscured, we want to find new ways to meet experiences and to meet our emotional needs. And this is also a south node lunar eclipse. So the south node being joined with the moon is asking for a resolution of emotional karmic experiences, coming to a close with certain emotional disturbances of the past, maybe emotional issues with others, and even our own things that we're holding on to emotionally. We can have an opportunity to let those go. And because it's in Aquarius, you know, it could be issues around, you know, alienation or around having to be, you know, the radical one, or, you know, any of these Aquarian sort of energies that just aren't serving us. And then when we have the lunar eclipse, that is when the sun's light is obscured by the moon's shadow. So the sun is in shadow. And the sun represents our life force and the light of consciousness. And so with the solar eclipse, the light of consciousness is blocked and gives way to realms of the subconscious, right? So that is where, you know, this is the beauty of astrology, because people that don't know what's coming, suddenly they just don't know what's wrong with them. Why have they lost their mojo? Why, you know, do they suddenly feel disoriented in life and don't know sort of the direction of their life purpose? Because that's what the sun gives us. And so when we look at the solar eclipse, the north node is joined with the sun and the moon. And so that really helps us to illuminate future possibilities of growth. And as we know, a new moon is a great time to manifest our intentions. And so a solar eclipse new moon is like this supercharged moment to really manifest something really big in life. And of course, because it's Leo, we want to be bold and we want to be courageous with our intentions. And so most of us have heard about this August 21st eclipse as the Great American Eclipse. And so the path of the eclipse is going over the United States, the first time in 38 years. And it's said that where the path of the eclipse is, where it's viewable, has an even more impact on that area of the world. And so for here, you know, we can see it's going all the way through Middle America. And so, you know, it'd be an amazing opportunity to view the eclipse if you can get to any of these places. It's a 7-minute long eclipse, which is considered long for a total solar eclipse. So it's a big one, and just be sure to view it safely if you can. Get your eclipse glasses ready. I saw an eclipse in like '99 in the UK, and I went to a botanical gardens, and it was really amazing because all of the flowers were like opening, closing, and there were the birds and things were chirping and like making crazy noise because they knew something was going on. They didn't know what, they didn't know how to respond to it. But it was amazing to really see how nature responds to this massive movement of the sun and shadow. And, you know, many people want to know, how will the eclipse affect me? Because in astrology, as we know, we look to the planets and the stars to give us a sense of meaning. What does it mean for us to have these, amazing events in the cosmos and how they affect us on our life here on Earth? Well, first of all, the eclipses are the midpoint of their effect. So, we should have a sense of what's happening in this area of our life. So the eclipse is about the midpoint of 3 months before and after. So if you look at the houses that the eclipses fall in for you, and think about what is building in that area, what needs to be resolved, or where are some future potentials that I really need to be courageous to start triggering in my life, right? So something is building, something's been building. And so take some time to look at your chart and see where the eclipses fall in your chart. And also what planets and points are aspected. If you have any planets at around 15 or 28 degrees, then you know that those will be affected. And we especially would look at the mutable signs of Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio, because those would probably be the most obvious effects, right? Because those are either conjunct, square, or opposite. Oh, and I think that's it. I know I only had 5 minutes, so I wanted to keep it short and let everybody else have a chance to talk. But if you have any questions for me, please feel free to leave them in the chat box, and I'm happy to chat with you. I hope that was good. I hope it wasn't too fast, Kaypacha. I like to.
5 minutes goes by fast when you're explaining the universe, Christina. Fantastic, baby. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next is Maurice. Maurice, what you got going on over there? Where are you? I think he moved to Sedona. Oh, maybe he's trying to keep that secret.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Gotcha. And I see you.
Wonderful. So I will also be sharing my screen. Just a moment. And it is indeed, as Christina was mentioning, a dramatic event. Eclipses are always this portal. I like this word very much. It's a word I'm using myself, because when the sun and the moon align on the nodes, it's the only time where their diameter actually cover each other. So that's why we have this light effect only when they're on the nodes. As we know, or we may not know, the sun is 400 times further away from the moon, but it's 400 times bigger. And so this exact ratio between the distance and the size creates this magical perspective, only from our perspective on Earth, that they can cover each other and cover the light that comes through. So I encourage you to check out this magazine, The Career Astrologer. There's a whole section on eclipses. It's on the OPA webpage or the Facebook page of OPA. What I would like to speak about is, pick on some of what Christina was saying. This is a time where so much can happen. And in ancient time, eclipses were considered a really frightening omen because the lights were off. You know, when you take away the sun, it seems like life is gone, and that there's danger that something negative is going to shut your fire. And this eclipse is in a sign of fire, which often affects leadership in the world and in our lives. Now, what I wanted to mention is that quite often when we speak of the lights coming out, it's not necessarily negative, but it does mean that our ego is not in control anymore. So you're blindfolded, and things can happen that are beyond your control, but these can be good things. So think of an easy word for eclipses is activation. Wherever it is in your chart by house and sign, especially if it touches an angle or a planet, it's activated, it's intensified, it's accelerated. I remember a couple of years when we had an eclipse, and it was in a very strategic point of my chart. I had 3 major events happen the same week. I became the president of OPA, and I started a very important relationship, and there was another event with family that happened all one day after the other, as the eclipse was basically activating. So these were all very positive events, but they happened quickly, beyond my control. Things were basically rushed. And that's what eclipse can do. That portal creates that divine intervention. Something is flowing into our consciousness, into our reality. And then when we take, the fold, we're not blindfolded anymore. We see our lives looks different. Something happened during that transition. But what I really want to emphasize and speak about is how the eclipses actually can be very powerful and impactful even before they occur. So even as Christina was mentioning, it's a 3 months range, 3 months before, 3 months after. Some say even 6 months, from one eclipse to another. So until the next one will be next February 2018, the degree where the eclipse takes place, which is 15 Leo Aquarius for the lunar and 28 Leo for the solar. These degrees are hotspots. And already ahead of the event, there are already hotspots. So I wanted to share some examples I had posted online, but it's worth revisiting. We see this is the chart, I hope you can all see it, of Travis Kalanick. He's one of the leaders of Uber, the driving service. And the eclipse was is going to be on his Venus at 28 Leo, whereas the lunar is going to be on his sun at 14 Leo. And he had to step down because he made really disparaging comments about women. And apparently there was a whole dynamic of harassment in the Uber offices that led to a need for him to step down along with other people. So Venus has to do with relationships, has to do with the other sex, and you can see how the eclipse is activating, and that happened in June. The other chart is the chart of a French singer who was born on the same day as Madonna, on the 16th of August. And the sun has to do with children. And she lost her child last week, a couple of weeks ago. So the eclipse happened ahead of time. And that's the other chart is the chart of her sun. And you see highlighted Mars at 26 Aquarius. So the opposite degree of the eclipse, and he basically committed suicide, if I'm not mistaken. So Mars has to do with ruptures, has to do with separation, and can have to do with some kind of violent event, including death. So we see how, again, an example of what can happen ahead of the event. And let's look at the chart of Madonna, since she's also born at the same time around the eclipse. Once again, right on her sun. And it happens to be that just last week she opened a new orphanage in Malawi, a pediatric clinic. So once again, something that has to do with children, because it's the sun, and it's an activator. So it doesn't have to be the loss. You see one person born that day experienced a loss, whereas another person used that in a creative and beneficial way, helping the collective with that influence. And we all know, of course, I think we all know that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is going to have the eclipse on his ascendant. So you see and on his Mars. So you see his ascendant at 29 and his Mars at 26. So the eclipse is right on it. And you see how he is already very agitated, a lot going on with his administration. And it may intensify even more, but it's already in process. That's what I'm saying. So understand that the eclipse is not just the 2 minutes or the 7 minutes that it happens. It is a very impactful event the range is very wide. And Donald Trump is an important figure because he was himself born during an eclipse. And that happens that many people born on eclipses have a very special destiny. They have that sense of higher calling. And just like the transit, it can create that sense that I'm not completely in control of my life. Bigger currents are taking over, and I'm just going with this, this strong flow that can either take me very far and have this special destiny, just, Trump, but it can also drown me because it is so powerful. And that's what we can all experience during this time. It's a powerful wave, so we can really lift very high, but we have to be careful not to become overwhelmed with it. I mean, as much as we can control it. The thing we have to remember is that the eclipses is a moment of truth. So whether it's challenging or whether it opens new gates for you, you have to trust that there is something of higher order happening during this time. So thank you, everyone, and prayers. Awaken the lion within.
Thanks, Maurice. Absolutely right. I mean, when it's my turn, I'm going to just go a little bit more into that for sure. Okay, let's see here. If you can stop sharing your screen, we will go on to, I think, Soul. Soul, by golly, let's hear from Soul. What's going on over there in Norway?
We have good weather for a change. So yes, I just wanted to pick up where Maurice stopped because it's very interesting with these particular eclipses. I was thinking about why such a big fuzz about this one, but it is an eclipse in Leo. So I guess that provides our answer, right? Leo likes to sort of express themselves. And Maurice says, when he stops, he says that, you shine that Leo on the inner levels. You express it. Madonna also said, express yourself, don't repress yourself. And this is a very potent way of describing this axis between Aquarius and Leo. There's going to be, for the 21st of July eclipse, there's going to be, Uranus is going to be involved in this eclipse. It's trining the sun for this particular eclipse. And we also see for the 7th of August eclipse, there's Sun-Mars conjunction in Leo. So it's really highly potent creative energies. The axis of the fixed square, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo are all related to our creative powers, how much in our lives we manage to create during a lifetime, how much we manage to ground and express from our core, from our heart, which is Leo. And this gives us a sense of purpose, which is Leo. But the South Node is, for this particular eclipse, in Aquarius. And we need to remember that the South Node is, it's the place where we're coming from. It's the cup that is already filled with something. And right now it's filled with the energy of Aquarius. And my intuition about the South Node is it feels like it's an energy we need to purify in a way. We need to heal it in a way. There's this element of a lower Aquarian that comes forth in this South Node. And for those of you who have been following the work of evolutionary astrologers as Mark Jones and Patricia Walsh and many others, you will see often that they correlate Uranus and Aquarius to trauma of some sorts. So there's great potential for healing, because if you cannot express yourself as you are because you feel inadequate or you feel repressed in a way, this particular eclipses will bring in and bring out whatever it is that is holding you back from yourself. And Aquarius is a sign of consciousness. It's a sign of the mind. It's a sign of being able to reflect upon yourself, who you are. And of course, that's a double sword. It's not always easy to be self-conscious. It's easier to not be self-conscious, because then you can just spontaneously express yourself and feel no regret afterwards. But alas, human nature is such that we often feel that we often go into these modes where we think about our actions after we've acted. And this is the Aquarian speciality, to actually to be able to think and discern. When that is taken too far, it can repress, and there can be a lack of spontaneity, there can be a lack of life. And many people who go to self-healing and therapies and anything, they seek astrology. They seek astrology to find themselves, to find that core of themselves, to find the courage to be who they are. And for this particular eclipse, we will see that many of these past life stories that a lot of people are carrying in their everyday life as actual patterns might emerge and re-emerge even more strongly now. We all have something. I think it's very hard to live on Earth without getting a bruise or two. And the psychological scars of just simply being here are many. And since Uranus and Aquarius is related to trauma, maybe you will go through an experience where you feel this trauma happening. And as Maurice said, it could have already been happening in your life. We already saw a few cases now with some traumatic events. I mean, this man who had been bad to women, I bet he had a little shock, he got shocked being thrown out of the company. But awareness arises from this shock, hopefully. And he will not be like that. He will have more refinement. He will have more respect. Respect is a very deep theme with this particular axis, to respect each other for the unique qualities that we have and not go ahead and be abusive towards each other. So therefore, this particular eclipse is extremely potent. It's as if it's at the core of being human. And that's Leo. It's the core of humanity. It's the heart of humanity. It's our capacity to love. And I know loving something or someone, it's much harder than criticizing them, judging them. What goes on in the mind when you walk and pass people on the street? We are all in it, right? We all have thoughts about how other people look or how they behave, etc. But loving is such a big feeling. I mean, love is it takes away that control, that particular judgment, and we need to surrender into this particular energy for the future of humanity, for sure, and keep, you know, such a high level of self-love that we're able to express ourselves, even maybe make a few mistakes, make a fool out of ourselves, and still land on our two feet afterwards, like a cat. And you know, I've been very excited. I get this eclipse directly into my chart, and it, as Marie said as well, this is absolutely a gateway. It's a portal of consciousness, of energy streaming forth. And I also remember once that these eclipses hit my chart directly, that something incredible just manifested. So these manifestors, they can happen on the inner level and on the outer level. It is progress towards our capacity to express ourselves, and whatever been holding us back in the past, we will get an extra opportunity to look at these things with new eyes. That's the gift of Uranus. It brings in a new perspective, a distance to everything, to the drama, so that you can see and find solutions that were unavailable to you before. And that's a very good thing. So it's definitely a creative time. So what often, you know, is difficult with us letting go of the mind. I'm not saying we have to let go of the mind, but what is difficult for us when we get too mental about things is that we forget to live. We forget to actually be present. And being present, if there is a lot of, you know, trauma in the body, traumas are physical energies. We can't really control them until we get some healing, or we get some perspective, or we get some techniques to help ourselves with them. But understanding how the psychology of every human being works will definitely help us all get through these things on the inner level and experience more freedom, more inner peace, and more joy, because it's all about having fun. There was a woman the other day who asked me, "So what do you want?" And I said, "I don't know, I don't really want any. I want to have fun. I want to have more fun. Not because I'm superficial or that I don't work on myself, but I think life is worth a little celebration. I think it's worth showing some gratitude to life." And I think that's the capacity that we get as human beings when we are able to be who we are. If we are feeling that people around us are always repressing us, and we don't feel that we have the courage to go beyond that, we don't dare the rejection, sort of, we will find afterwards, if somebody did us wrong and we were unable to express it, we will find afterwards that there's a growing hate or a dislike towards that particular person. And therefore, it's very important to express yourself. Love is not a feeble energy. It's a very courageous energy. It says it as it is. And it's particularly important to remember that when you say something and you say it with true love, people can handle the truth. They can handle quite a bit from you because they know it's coming from a place of, you know, a wish for a true friendship. Nobody would do that if they didn't care. You know, if you don't care about people, you wouldn't tell them how you felt. You would just not bother with it. But if you truly love them and they hurt you, you would definitely muster up the courage to tell them, so that the energies can flow again, so that there can be love again, so that we can go on being safe again and feeling safe with each other. So this is, you know, Aquarius is all about defrosting. You know, you freeze into these patterns. So now it's time to sort of relax into the moment and let your shoulders go and have a little fun, smile a little, cry a little, express yourself, get into the motion of emotions, and allow yourself to have an experience that is out of your comfort zone. A lot of people are looking for purpose and meaning in their lives. And the funny thing is that it comes after we manage to express ourselves. So it's a beautiful gift. It's a great time for us to really explore who we really are. Well, I guess I did my 5 minutes there, right? Yeah? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to our timer, but I think that's it. It sounded great. I could have just listened and listened and listened and listened. Oh my God. All right, soul maybe. Let's pass on that baton to our good friend from Savannah, Timothy Halloran. What's going on there, Tim? What's your take? I think you wanted to talk about Chiron a little bit and the healing nature of this eclipse. What's that about?
Yes. Well, thank you. First of all, Kaypacha, Christina, Maurice, and that was awesome, Soul. And I think that's also a sort of nice lead-in into what I wanted to share, my little bit on Chiron. And I do think this eclipse is powerful, not only for transiting the United States, but also because of this quincunx aspect that it forms to Chiron. And so I just wanted to share my screen real quick, just so you can see what exactly I'm talking about. And on the day of this eclipse, which we can see is about 1 degree and 7 solar arc minutes from Virgo, this eclipse is close to the Virgo cusp, and also quincunx to Chiron, which is the 150-degree aspect right here. So the quincunx is sort of renowned for being somewhat of a challenging and intense aspect. It's certainly challenging and intense because it really forces us to address certain issues. And certainly with Chiron, we're talking about healing here. And the quincunx aspect itself is a healing aspect. And so Chiron just recently turned retrograde on July 1st, is moving retrograde until, I believe, Aries, going back into Aries in April of this year, and is going to complete his transit of Pisces, which has been going on since 2011 in 2018. And so Chiron moving through Pisces is healing the collective consciousness. And when we talk about Pisces, Pisces is this sign of union, all being one, interconnectivity. And there is a merging, dissolving type of quality with Pisces. And so we are all interconnected to the collective. As Soul said, we're all born into a collective situation, and we've all experienced bruises, I think, in some way, shape, or form. And Pisces is this sign that just simply soaks up, highly Pisces sensitive people, they just soak up like sponges the collective situation. And in many respects, all of us souls have soaked up some of the unconscious, distorted, not exactly aligned with the solar, spiritual, beautiful, harmonious nature that is life. In many respects, we've lost this sense of interconnectivity. We've lost the sense that we are all one. And Chiron moving through Pisces is healing this. And so the quincunx aspect between this solar eclipse, again, near the Leo-Virgo cusp, is about healing our own creativity, our own purpose as individuals, and finding that purpose in such a way that can contribute back to the whole. And again, the quincunx aspect tends to bring up more questions than solutions served to us on a silver platter. It is a healing endeavor that we are exploring. How have we soaked up collective situations, and how can we purify these things through our own self-expression and finding our service in this world? Now, this is also all about Leo, right? So this is about the solar child. This is about spontaneous release, play, fun. And this also has been very wounded by our collective situations, the dog-eat-dog, fight-to-survive world that we've all been born into and has been the way that it is for thousands of years. And that wounding of the inner child, our own spontaneous creativity, has been wounded by these collective situations. Maybe we got our wrists slapped for being too childlike or too playful or too goofy. And this has a way of choking up our own individual purpose as well as that spontaneous creativity. And so there is an opportunity, like Maurice said, this goes on for months and months. This solar eclipse, which is like a super new moon in certain respects, on the moon's north node is us sowing the seed intention to do this type of healing work. And there can be a nagging us with the quincunx, a sense of it's not all perfect yet, and it needs to be worked through. And that is a part of our collective journey at this time. And so in general, with Chiron, again, completing this transit through Pisces this next year, there can be this unplugging from the world, from culture, from collective, from all the distractions, the collective philosophies and beliefs that get in the way of our faith, of our soul's innocence. And Pisces is that type of faith that reminds us that we are connected with everything. We are one. It's not believing in a particular name or path. It is that faith in our source. And so here is an opportunity for us to unplug and come into our source, and then expressing from that place in our heart, expressing from our center, come into acts of services and roles that acknowledges our Leo special individuality. What makes us unique and different from everybody else is our gifts to offer back to the collective. And that's what gives us a sense of purpose and meaning in this day and age. And it also gives us something to celebrate as we are returning to that purity, innocence, and divinity of our own soul and our inner child. And so that's what I wanted to throw out there, and I'm happy to hand it off to whomever next.
Fantastic, Tim. I relate to that so deeply, and I want to go a little further into that when it's my turn too. For now, speaking of deeper into things, we want to go into Venus and Pluto with Eugenia. Oh, yes. What have they got going on, baby?
Oh, well, so much, Kaypacha, so much. Well, first off, hello, everyone. It's so great to be with you here on the internet. Yes, hi. The dream team, and then, of course, all of you watching and participating. I love the internet, being an Aquarius myself. And it's really an interesting dynamic, right? Like now I'm on my Leo place. Now it's all people are looking at me and I don't get to hide as my other teammates are talking about astrology. Now the focus, the energy is on me. Oh gosh, and I'm so nervous and I feel so much. Everyone's looking at me. So what do I do? Right? My heart. Love. This is the eclipse. Yeah. The sun ruling Leo rules the heart. Yeah. Timothy just spoke about healing the heart with Chiron. There are so many different elements in the sky right now that are directing us to healing our heart and learning to trust it and listen to it over the chatter of the Aquarian brain, the Aquarian airwaves, the Aquarian technology, where we get lost and we lose our voice because we have to be socially acceptable for this group or socially acceptable for that group. And the benefit, of course, of Aquarius is coming together and really doing epic things like we're doing right now. You know, meeting online, meeting in real life in Costa Rica. For those of you astrology risers out there, what's up? That was what the new paradigm could look like and feel like, is a group of individual heart-based Leo shining stars coming together to make a constellation of cosmos. There are each of us our unique voices. So I'm going to share the chart as well. So I don't know how to do this exactly. So I'm going to try. Please, I hope I didn't mess it up. So let me know. Oh gosh, can you see my whole desktop? If you can, I'm sorry. It's a mess. Okay, so if you can see my cursor here, give me another thumbs up. Yeah, great. So a couple of really, this eclipse, I'm looking at, of course, the great one for the world. Of course, this is going over the continent of the United States. But this is, of course, for everybody in the world. And there are so many fascinating pieces of this eclipse. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Venus Ceres opposition to Pluto during this eclipse. I want to talk a little bit about that. And I do want to mention that Mercury will be retrograded in Virgo as well. So that's something I want to mention as well. So I just had this really cool podcast episode on my podcast, Bridging Realities, where we had Gemini Brett, a super cool astrologer, on, and he brought a lot of really interesting information. The first thing I want to share is something that he shared with me, which I hadn't really thought about. But when the sky goes dark in the middle of the day on August 21st, one of the most phenomenal things that's going to take place is the fact that we are going to see Mars and Venus in the middle of the day. And this is impossible. Mars and Venus so close to the sun is something we don't get to see. This is a very rare, very, very rare opportunity to see the heart of love and the heart of desire and those interpersonal planets that are all about relating to one another, and relating to ourselves, and beauty and love and drive and desire. They will be above us in that moment, together dancing in the middle of the day. This is another kind of symbolic opportunity with this eclipse to open our heart and to feel into that lion roar of what it is that we actually authentically desire and yearn for. With the opposition to Pluto, I want to talk about Venus and Pluto. It's not a tight opposition, but it's certainly an opposition. And when we're thinking about Pluto, Pluto is ultimately, of course, about transformation. This is the big piece with Pluto. And so to me, when the Venus and Mars culminate very high in the sky on that day, in that moment, and Pluto, the god of the underworld, is desiring this deep, deep transformation, we have this opportunity to transform again our heart. And it's in Cancer. Family, community, connecting to one another. We know that we're in the middle of the teardown of the patriarch. We know that we're in the middle of the teardown of the structure that has built our culture for thousands of years. So how do we repair? How do we heal? One of my apprentices said to me recently, it's a backyard revolution. We do it in our backyard. We do it with our neighbors. We do it with eating off the land. We do it with healing one another. Nurturing one another, being still with one another, and guiding one another. Okay. Ceres Pluto conjunction. I know Soul has a lot of really cool information on these two together, Ceres and Pluto. Pluto being the brother of Ceres. Pluto being who took the daughter of Ceres, Persephone, as the wife, and the story of the seasons and agriculture and all of the different elements that include Ceres. This again is healing the land, the heart, the land, the backyard. Aquarius leads us to believe that sometimes we have to go out with weaponry and fight for change and and wake people up and be bold and brash. And there's something very, really profound about that, of course. But during this eclipse season, it is a subtle, still revolution that starts from breath work in and out of the heart. Okay. And this is the tug of war between the matriarch and the patriarch, between the mother and the father, the masculine and the feminine. And how do we, of course, transform and find the equanimity of both during this eclipse? And I do want to mention the Mars retrograde. With Mars retrograde, we're really, really talking about the Mercury retrograde. We are talking about an opportunity to reevaluate what it is we're communicating and how it is we're connecting with one another. So Soul said something really cool back there where she said that, when we really love someone, we definitely take the courage, that Leo courage to say, you hurt my feelings. And how can we, with this Mercury retrograde, really stop and think about, are we communicating our heart's desires? Right? Like this to me is one of the big pieces. So I'm gonna leave the screen and come back to you beautiful faces. So for me, when we're thinking about the Chiron piece and Chiron playing with the piece of Venus, there's an element with Chiron and Venus, there's the Mercury retrograde, the Pluto, the Venus. To me, this is a collective transformation of the heart. We've gotten very, very intellectual. We've really tried to plan our futures. All of my friends and clients and people come to me, I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I'm like, nothing. Just be. Just be. And listen to your heart. Let your heart guide you. The messages come to our heart and then our head. How can we find balance between the both? To me, that's the intention of this solar eclipse, is a transition for the collective to learn the equanimity of both. So that's my contribution.
Wow. Eugenia, you're so awesome. That's great, baby. Yeah, it's all about the heart now, isn't it? Speaking of heart, I think of a great big heart named Ari Moshi. Ow! Come on, baby.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Kaypacha. Can you see me? Am I on? Good, okay. So I want to jam a little bit with what you're just speaking of, Eugenia. In so many ways, the heart is the center focus for this eclipse time. And as Maurice was speaking, this is a portal. So energy comes in, energy comes out. I want to bring our attention to the south node of the moon in Aquarius. And Sol spoke a little bit about this. The south node of the moon in general is really where from the past, what dynamics are coming up now that are being resolved or coming into fruition. This south node is the opposite point of this big solar eclipse. So in many ways, we can look at this south node as a trigger point, as where energy is being released. So we look at Uranus. Whenever we look at the south node in the chart or in transits, we look to the ruler of the south node. So Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. Uranus is going retrograde in Aries just a couple of days or so before the lunar eclipse, the first eclipse coming up soon. So during this eclipse season, Uranus is going retrograde. I'm going to speak to this a little bit and to Mars, which rules Aries. Whenever something goes retrograde, it slows down. There's energy that's going inside. There's an introversion occurring. If it's happening in Aries, Aries is a sign of action, direction. Uranus moving retrograde is all about liberating ourselves, Uranus, from any suppression or conditioning that inhibits our own authentic individual soul expression to move forward with a freedom that is necessary for each one of us on this soul path. The thing about Uranus retrograde is it can bring up a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, and a lot of anxiety, and even a sense of dread. Because when Uranus goes retrograde, especially if you put it in Aries, there's a profound interface for most of us between the world that we know, the context that we have, and with what's actually happening. Uranus is always about liberating from our fixed time-space projections about reality and arriving into the present moment, actually discovering what things are beyond our story. So from a Uranian perspective, there's absolutely no context. We have no known reference point for this present moment. But most of us are projecting a story in this moment that reflects what we know. And we definitely have no reference point for where we're going. So Mars is in Leo. Mars rules that Aries. So it kind of brings us back to this Leo, Mars, Leo North Node, Leo eclipse. In many ways, this is about getting out of the head. And the great fear with Uranus, when we dissociate, when we're in fear, when we're in trauma, when we're afraid of the unknown, which, by the way, often means our impulse is leading us in a certain direction. In this case, Mars and Leo, our heart, right? Our heart, our passion, something that is so indigenous and subjective to our very being. It's calling us, Mars, to go, but Uranus retrograde in Aries, I've never done this before. So there can be a lot of fear relative to our social group, what the world, what the community, what our friends expect of us. So this is definitely a time to cultivate a lot of courage, strength, and trust in our own soul's direction. Where are we actually being called, and noticing where we might tend to suppress or try to fit where we're being called into the box of the known. So during this time, we can really hold it as a ceremony. And I love holding eclipses as a ceremony in the sense that it's happening whether or not I'm conscious of it. So if I can embrace consciousness and intention, create the space inside to kind of flow with this powerful transformative cycle, then I'm not just a passive participant, I'm a co-creator with these cycles. And that's one of the most important pieces of astrology, actually working with these cycles. So to embrace this time, my offering, my blessing for all of us is to give ourselves the time and the space and the courage to really look inside our hearts. Where are we being called? Where are we invited at this time? Where's Uranus 28 degrees? And that's, by the way, trining Leo. That's trining the eclipse. Where's Uranus in your chart? Where's this Mars and North Node in Leo in your chart? Where's your sun? Where's that in your chart? How are you being invited right now to really actualize your own creative essence? And this is a time where you can pull, Uranus is about everything is archetypal energetic vibration first, time and space second. So we can pull cards or do divination readings or look at astrology and get a sense of how things are unfolding within time and space. But it always requires some element of interpretation. The deepest expression of Uranus in Aquarius that I find is one where we're not even looking on the outside. We're truly just individuating ourselves, following the impulse of our own soul, the inherent impulse towards freedom of our own soul. So I bless all of us to be filled and blanketed with a lot of courage and strength to really trust ourselves and not need to look outside, right? Uranus is community. We resonate with our friends with community, not because we're looking, not because we're trying to fit in, but because we're being ourselves. That's how the universe works. So much love to you all. Thank you.
Yay! Fantastic, brother. Love it. Love you. And that leaves the wonderful Marcy.
Hola.
Come on, baby.
Hey. Well, as you said, we're going to get playful with the energy because Leo's play, and then Kaypacha started out saying, well, there's some serious shit too. So, I'm opening up to the platform of also discussing with Leo, certainly as in the mix, this archetype of discussing world leaders. So we're going to send love to them as I give you some info, astrological info. No doom and gloom. Leo being the sun and the leading life force is masculine, and is Leo's ruler is the sun. So many of us know that know basic astrology. Some of us don't. But the moon, as shadowing in the eclipse, is the unconscious. So we have the sun representing, if you'll understand this more symbolically, as consciousness, and also our leader's consciousness, if you will. And the moon representing the emotive, attitudinal people. We, the people. The moon is also the unconsciousness of the world, the people of the world, not just we, the people of the United States, though this is making a big impression, certainly because it's called the Great American Eclipse. But there are other countries that I'm going to note that are also going to be highlighted, in which are ruled by Leo. So I'm going to get serious and put on my shades. My future's so bright. My indoor shades. South Korea, Leo, also sun. Pakistan, Switzerland, maybe more in the light, so to speak, at this time. Israel's moon is in Leo. And Jamaica, not maybe a world player at this time, but also has a son, Leo sun. The polarity point of the sun is Aquarius, and that is a humanitarian energy. So going back to we the people and bringing that up, and the moon and the lunar element and that connection, this is also about security. So those issues also may be playing a part, not only the day of the eclipse. Certainly the astrologers have spoken of potentially 3 weeks prior, 6 months after. You'll be able to feel these energies and those issues. So in regard to Mr. Trump, Maurice had mentioned about the ascendant, and the ascendant at 29 degrees is very relevant on Trump's, you know, that the eclipse is also connected to that, and Mars at 26 degrees. I also wanted to reflect on how that day of the eclipse, Saturn is also going to be making a conjunction to Trump's moon and his south node. It will be an exact conjunction to the moon. So I feel certainly, as far as what that will potentially play a part in, is this shift, hopefully, also, as eclipses also are part of an evolution. So let's all, as we send love, hope that there's an opening of the heart there, an emotional shift of some sort, and definitely send loving energies, because Trump may be a part of our shadow collectively, if in fact it's affecting this Trump Trump's chart in this way. It's spotlighting this notation. Also a player that we've heard a lot politically about is the South and the North Korean presidents. Now, Kim Jong, we don't have any times on them because the time's unknown. It looks like it is squaring Kim Jong-un's Saturn, and that would be squaring Saturn in Scorpio at 26 degrees I have here. Excuse me, Saturn on, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here on also Assad of Syria, and we have him square Mars potentially here. South Korea, also there's some notations, as I had mentioned, this is both South and North Korea. On South Korea's leader, Moon Jae-in, it is actually opposing his Aquarius sun. So there's an oppositional effect with South Korea playing a part. So these world leaders, as you can note as I'm looking at some of these aspects. Now there's Netanyahu, and that's the Prime Minister of Israel. We do have his time, and that is at 20, his Mars is at 26 degrees, by the way, of Leo, so that will be there, also that eclipse on Netanyahu. I didn't forget Putin, y'all, because I know that, of course, you know, politics may not be for everybody, but this is part of our, as Leo, as we're speaking about this, energy, leaders are certainly part of the mix. So, yes, the midheaven of Putin is at 21 degrees Leo, South Node, 22 degrees, and of course he has his Pluto in Leo. That's that generational thing. So as far as dealing with this, I'm going to wrap it all up now. And as we're looking at these shadows, these lunar truths, if you will, because the lunar aspect in the moon is making us understand these lunar truths. The element here of the moon is asking us to envelop more of our nurturing and our sensitivities. And this is coming from the heart, certainly. It's shining both ways, the yin and the yang, the moon, of course, being feminine and the sun being masculine. So that's why I offer to you also to develop more sensitivities in your own life and being more sensitive to your own needs, and just tuning on in during this time. Thank you.
Yeah, baby. Thanks, Marcy.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess that leaves me. You guys all had a chance to talk, right? Oh, God. Well, I don't know. There were a few things that I wanted to bring up. Number one is I really wanted to bust, okay, anybody who is out there as a fear monger, okay, using eclipses to, garner more people's, tweets or likes or whatever, because this goes far back down into the deep collective unconscious, that the eclipses bring in sudden, sometimes shocking, awesome, new. It's a new moon here, a solar eclipse, a total solar eclipse. It breaks the auric shield of the earth. It brings in new elements from deep space. It brings in souls that are going to be incarnating for the next 6 months. It really brings in a lot of change. And we've had thousands of years of patriarchy. We've had thousands of years of this male-dominated energy, that the sign of strength and the sign of power and the sign of success has been your ability to thwart change. The bigger your house, the bigger your bank account, the stronger your body, the more you are, invincible and not susceptible to change. So it's been about conquering nature, which is always changing, conquering our feelings and the feminine, which is always changing. And so eclipses have gotten a bad rap because they signify a new change. A new change is necessary. They are like Uranus. I really, especially this one. Okay, I thank you so much, Ari, for bringing in this Uranian quality of, like I said, it brings in stuff from deep space, like foreign elements come in during these eclipses. So they are times of new stuff coming out of this collective unconscious. And particularly this one because what? The Sabian symbol is a mermaid emerging from the ocean waves, preparing to be birthed in human form. This brings in this Pisces, Chiron, healing, this collective unconscious, this unity consciousness that we are all one, coming from one spiritual source, returning to that source outside time and space. And this, this quality has this sense of unity comes with the water signs. And it comes with the water planets. And the moon is a water planet. And every single planet is more powerful when it's on its own north node. This is a north node eclipse. So the moon is very strong. So the feelings are very strong. So this is a very emotional time, an emotional month where we are moved by and with, and our changes are going to come through our emotions. And these emotions I just want to bring forward as what, playful, fun, joy. Leo is the sign of gambling, okay, of taking a chance, of really believing in myself that I am coming from source, that I'm a ray of light from the sun, and I am here to do something, create something new, original, outrageous. And the downside, the downside of Leo, and I think Sol addressed this a little bit, with this Aquarius Leo, you can't talk about Leo without talking about Aquarius. We can't talk about one side of a coin without looking at the other side of the coin. And so it's like really super important during this time where it's time for each one of us to shine our light, our originality, our genius, our creativity, keeping the collective in mind. Leo is the star of the show. Aquarius is the producer and the director. As we keep Aquarius, okay, and if we just look at it, our sun is one tiny little star in the Milky Way galaxy. It's like, you know, Aquarius is the galaxy, okay, and our sun is Leo. Even the glyph for the sun is point consciousness. Subjective consciousness is the point, and the circle is like Aquarius. And we have to really keep the collective in mind, keep our brothers and sisters in mind, keep the future in mind, keep the community in mind, keep the planet in mind, and be an agent for that, of that, in all of our actions. So I just like really want to really quickly run through the houses, man. You know? If you got this eclipse falling, okay, this 28 degrees of Leo in the first house, this is a time to like be instinctive, impulsive, follow your gut, follow your just like, you know, charge, get into your warrior, keeping in mind Aquarius, not forgetting the 7th house, not forgetting your partner or your business partner, your romantic partner, not forgetting other people, but like keeping that, you know, I am acting as a warrior on behalf of my partnership or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Take it in the 2nd house. Okay, the 2nd house is going to be, you know, this is where I ground my resources, my money, my finances. This is a time for new action, for stepping out, for creating something new, for rolling the dice, for going with it, you know, and really believing and trusting that one. Aquarius, the 8th house, other people's money, other people's values, other people's energy is going to like, you know, you really want to keep that other person, those other people in mind and in your heart when you're spending your money and when you're throwing yourself out there, and just like not make it all about I, me, my. This is where I really look at this Leo energy as being the king and the queen. And the king and the queen are looking after the whole kingdom. Put it in the 3rd house. The king and the queen is going to write, speak, do their TED Talks on behalf of the kingdom, awakening the kingdom. This is the 3rd house, right? Communication and teaching. Put it in the 4th house. I am going to mother, I am going to nurture, I'm going to maybe buy some real estate, start a new healing center, you know, I'm going to like start a new family, I'm going to just like really, you know, house the homeless people. It's going to be all about utilizing myself as an instrument of life coming through here. You see how this works. So you can, you know, knowing the houses, you can just kind of take this through. I don't want to like talk all freaking day, but you know, I just wanted to give you this kind of a rundown, right? I mean, the 5th house. I suppose I could keep going. I don't know. Georgia, is my time up yet? I lose track of time when I start talking, man. So, you know, the 5th house. You know, the fifth house is like, let's party, yeah? I mean, let's be youthful, fun, joyous, get on the dance floor, get the karaoke machine going. It's through enthusiasm that we awaken the juices and the heat and the fire that are really going to create this new paradigm. So it's like, you know, is shy or bashful, get over your inhibitions, okay? And follow the director. The director in the 11th house says, get your ass out there and, you know, be seen, be authentic, be outrageous. 6th house, don't forget the 12th house. You are a channel of divine light, of divine inspiration. Okay, it's like you are taking the, you know, the imagination, and it's your job to like bring it into this earth house of the 6th house and heal with it. You are a magician, a mystic, and you want to bring in this magical influence, this mystical energy, okay, and serve, give like there's no you, like there's no tomorrow, there's no fear of dying or losing or whatever. It's just like become a philanthropist. Yeah. And just like really throw yourself into, that which is needed by your cohorts, your workers, the people in your daily routine. Yeah. And really just bring in this 12th house energy. So I went through the first 6 houses, and what you can do is you can flip this over. Okay. It's like, the 7th house, it's time to shine. Okay. And do partnership, do relationship, find new people, but what? Don't forget yourself in the equation. Okay, like bring yourself, your instinct, your impulses, your warrior, your sexuality into, that relationship and that partnership. 8th house, don't forget your resources. Don't forget, how to receive, but like really part of your path towards mastery. The 8th house is about mastery. It's like really bringing my body, my resources, my money to the table. And kind of vulnerably like playing my cards and showing, everything that I got and putting it out there and going, take me. You got to trust, and this, so, these eclipses, it goes on. I don't want to, the houses, man. So, but the whole thing is that it has to do, with this balancing of the Leo Aquarian axis, with this stepping into responsible action. I think the last thing I want to close with is that Leo is the only carnivore in the zodiac. Next to the Scorpion, he's the only one that was going to kill something or kill someone. And this is conjunct Mars. This is a very volatile time period. These next 6 months is like a cat fight. And it is time for each and every one of us to get our asses strengthened, and build our solar plexus energy, that solar power, and stand in our truth, for our truth, with this Saturn conjuncting the galactic center and all of this stuff going on. And it's just like the last thing I'm going to close with is that the lunar eclipse happens first, and then the solar eclipse. Sometimes the solar eclipse happens first, and then there's a lunar eclipse. You just really want to look at it that when when the lunar eclipse precedes the solar eclipse, it says that it's necessary to let go of the past habits and some of the past emotional ties or bonds. It's like you have to erase the chalkboard. You have to clear space. So August 7th, with this lunar eclipse and this full moon, it's time to clear space. It's time to let go of maybe some relationships or past or commitments or, things that are, really holding you back, and prepare for this solar eclipse that's coming, then on the 21st. And then, boom, it's time to assert, play, charge, create some drama in your life, gamble a little bit, believe in yourself, trust in yourself, and just remember that if it's too much, you will be corrected. Uranus eclipses, it's just like you may also get shocked. Like if you have been too much about yourself and forgetting Aquarius, the community or the group or life itself will give you a lightning bolt flash of awakening that, guess what, dudess, you forgot, like you're a star in the galaxy. Duh. So, all right, we've all had our little, chit chat time, and we want to give it up here now to some questions. All right. And I think what we'll do is we'll have all the dream team unmute yourselves and just try to, stay quiet. Okay. But, jump in or chime in, as you see, maybe I'll read the question. And maybe
I got one. Oops, sorry.
You have a question?
I just saw a good one. This
Okay.
just went by.
Go for it.
Someone asked, I forget who, let me see, who asked that? Pat Iyer said, can you speak about the eclipses on the angles? So who wants to take that one? I think that was for you, Kaypacha. Or it looks like Soul wants that one.
That's great. We can raise our hands, you guys. That's perfect. Soul, go for it.
The way that I understood the question is that if an eclipse lands on any of the angles in the chart, like IC, MC, ascendant or descendant, anything that hits an angle is, the angles in the chart are very important for your personal expression and your personal development. The angles are related to our lives becoming, how we become in our lives. It's the unfoldment of the flower. It's the cross upon which matter exists. So it's related to material earthly life and how you express yourself in earthly dimension. And definitely there are different aspects, like the ascendant is related to this personal becoming, and it's your ego becoming. The IC is your roots, it's your future, your identity becoming. The descendant is out of that, your identity. What kind of relationship are you projecting yourself into? And then the 10th house is the culmination, the MC is the culmination of your expression, how you enter into the world at large. So the thing is that when you have an eclipse landing on any of these angles, and there will be two involved because the north node and the south node are always 180 degrees apart, you will get a very strong amplification of the effect of the eclipse. Anything that touches the axis, the angles, are amplified extremely. So it's an incredible potent time for you if you have this going on in your own chart. It's really about becoming, it's really about emerging, and it's really about a new start, because the cardinal axis, which are the angles, the cardinal signs, the cardinal axis are symbolic of, the angles are symbolic of the cardinal energy in anybody's life. And that's all about new beginnings and endings, of course, because you cannot have a new beginning without having a new ending. But the major point, I guess, when the nodal axis hits any angle is that it's really amplified, and you will most surely notice a very strong effect. There was also somebody who mentioned the orbs to the eclipses, and if you have a very potent, strong stellium somewhere around these degrees, you will notice it. But personal experience, the tighter the orb is, the more strongly you will feel this, right? So and if it hits your degree exactly, well, it's a kind of magic, right? We remember on an esoteric level, Uranus is related to creation, to thought forms. It's actually magic. So yeah, if you have any of these, you're in for a ride.
Great. All right. We've got lots of questions over here going on. Oh my goodness. Somebody want to look at how to build solar power. Any techniques anybody's got? Come on, besides Kundalini yoga and breath work. I like those, but I know there's others out there.
I'll respond to this. I couldn't really answer that question. No one could really answer that question as a one-size-fits-all kind of dynamic. So to the one that's asking, the basic astrological pointers I would offer: look at where Leo is in your chart. The house that Leo occupies is the area of life, house, where we're infusing our own unique expression of creative intelligence. And the position of your sun sign is your life's purpose. So when we're functioning and we're connected to our solar power, there's confidence, there's a healthy pride, the ability to stand in one's glory and one's power. So one creative suggestion, especially during this eclipse season for building solar power, might be to create a little meditation or ritual or altar relating to your own Leo archetypes, and maybe combine that with some Kundalini yoga or something fun like that.
Great. Somebody else has Lilith in Lilith in Leo. Anybody want to talk to Lilith? You guys can leave yourselves unmuted so you don't have to pause if you want. Well, by God, I'll talk if you guys aren't. You know, I mean, to me, Lilith is just basically the shadow that is our very deep, powerful truth that we have been told to be ashamed of, or told to hide, or told that is bad, wrong, or evil. So if you've got Lilith and Leo, you have been told that you are too dramatic, you take up too much space, you shine too bright, you're just so obnoxious, egotistical, self-centered, whatever. Don't be that. Don't be that. Would you shrink? Would you be small? Would you like disappear and be smaller like everybody else? So when this eclipse comes around, if it's hitting your Lilith in Leo, okay, it's going to bring up, all right, all of this shame that you have around being you're outrageous. And this is the other thing. So this is that, your power is in your ability to dramatize, in your fun and in your play, and how you are a leader and a Pied Piper and a dancer and a wild freaking cat. And so it's like really, all of your fears around being seen and around being too big or around being too dramatic or whatever, this eclipse is going to trigger all that shadow stuff. Yeah. And so you may have to just I encourage you, this is a great time to penetrate through that shadow and get over your shame or get over your past or your guilt or the external authorities that told you, to stay small. Yeah. And don't be holding yourself back so much. And you will find, oh my God, that you are then like this Joan of Arc. Lilith is like the powerful leader wherever she falls. And of course, you want to look at the house and the aspects for more stuff on that. Lynette says it is still in a house, just not on a cusp. So we can
that was me responding to a question, Kaypacha.
Oh, okay.
I got a good question about the Mercury retrograde.
Great.
So right, Mercury retrograde. The thing that you really just want to think about, and Ari spoke to this a little bit when planets retrograde, is if you think about it from an astronomical perspective, it looks like planets go backwards in space when things go retrograde. So just put yourself in primitive times, a whopping couple hundred years ago, before electricity, before, we couldn't go outside and look at the sky without light pollution. Again, that wasn't that long ago. So we've been on the planet for 200,000 years, looking into space every evening, and just go back to the roots of your soul when you watch something seemingly go backwards in space. When you see Mars no longer dancing towards the west but dancing towards the east, or Venus or whomever might be retrograde, and feel it. Develop a heartier relationship with that planet. Right? So with Mercury being retrograded during these eclipses, it's like develop a new relationship with your voice. We talk about not signing contracts and this and that, and you'll hear all kinds of things. And to be fair, I did buy a vehicle under Mercury retrograde, and it was a terrible decision. Never doing that again. Oh my, learned my lesson. So it is about being cautious though with your voice and what it is you're sharing. When we're speaking from our heart, this is a really explosive energy, and it is very Uranian and fiery, and everyone's feeling it. The portals are open. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot going on. So how do we discern and be conscious with what it is we're speaking? And like Marcy spoke about, play. Mercury is play. Hanging out with your neighbors. Play a board game. Everything doesn't have to be so serious all the time. Go, just have a hike and talk about funny things with your friends. I was in a coffee shop with my friends the other day, and we were entertaining the whole group because we were just talking about silly things. you know, like it can get really explosive and heavy, and we can be scared of the retrogrades and this and that. But it is like developing a new relationship to fun, communication, our siblings, right? That's a big aspect of it. It's really about having a new relationship with Mercury. So that's how I want to address that question.
All right.
There's a lot of question about Regulus. So as you may all know, the eclipse is going to be at 28 Leo, which is conjunct the actual star in the constellation of the Lion, and that star is named Regulus. And where it stands in that constellation is the heart of the Lion. So this eclipse is not just in Leo, it's on that star. And Regulus is considered a royal star pointing to a direction. There are 4 royal stars, each one with a direction. I'm going to share my screen to show you. You have Regulus at 20, most of us have at 29 Leo, but now currently it's actually at 0 Virgo. So the eclipse is pretty tightly close to our own and to the current. Then you have Aldebaran, which is the eye of the bull in the constellation of Taurus. Then you have Antares, which is the heart of the Scorpion. And you have Phobahalt, which is the recipient of the Aquarius waters. So you have 4 directions, 4 royal stars. And these are really very bright stars. You can really, see them clearly in the sky. And they represent really the 4 cardinal points of the universe, if you will. So having an eclipse on that point means that it will affect leadership, very likely. Just like people like Trump are born with the ascendant on that degree, they rise to leadership more easily because there's a past life of royalty. But when you are activating your Regulus, it also means you're tested. To be a leader and to be on that royal star, you have to measure up to that standing. And so on the one hand, it can elevate us, but it also requires higher standards, true nobility. And I would suspect it will affect leaders. I mean, Marcy was mentioning how this eclipse is affecting different leaders. We saw Trump, Netanyahu, same thing. We can see the chart of Israel also with the Mars at 28 Leo. And we already see there's a lot of fire going on. There's a lot of changes. We can only hope that the eclipse on Regulus will bring the true Lion Kings, the true leaders. And I want to also share, if you want to find out more about lion shamanism, some of you were asking about the lion within and how to activate. I would recommend to read this book, Mystery of the White Lions by Linda Tucker. It's a great piece that will help you connect with the lion and activate the lion energy.
Yeah, baby. Thank you, Maurice. And thank you, everybody, talking about connecting and looking at all of these questions. I just want to say that, you can ask questions of these amazing astrologers any day of any week at any hour of the day or night. Did you know that? We have the New Paradigm Astrology community, and we have a question and answer forum where we can go into this stuff, and we're going to carry these questions. You can bring these questions to that forum. We also have a Facebook group page Okay, that's a little faster. If you're on Facebook, you just pop over to the group page and throw your question out on the Facebook group page. So that and each one of these astrologers and myself give a video every week so you can learn astrology, you know, sitting on the couch, looking at your phone. I don't know what you do, man. But you know what? It's like we are constantly putting out, you know, video, webinar, video, conferences, you know, whatever, raffles. There's all kinds of stuff going on. This community costs $15 a month. I mean, we've tried to make it, you know, as reasonable, as cheap, as accessible as possible so everybody can get in there and get on there. This webinar is being recorded. It's going to go out to the whole community. Okay, there's over 1,000 people in the community. So come on, baby. I could be talking to the choir, though. I mean, I'll bet most of you are already in the freaking community. Whatever, you know, just throwing it out there. So for now, I think I want to just give you a great big thank you. All the dream team is going to wave. Hi, bye everybody. Thank you for coming. Namaste. Aloha. So much love. All right. Yeah.